Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. This little puppy has been sitting in my garage for about 2 years now, so it's about time I give this guy a rebuild. By the looks of it, you can see that it's been very ignored. The condition has really deteriorated. There's a lot of rust, a lot of gunk. I know for a fact that one or two of the engine gaskets are leaking. One of the shocks on the front is also leaking. The oil pan also leaks. There has been quite a number of other problems, but the last time I stopped this and stopped riding this, it was still running fine. There was a couple of issues with it, but it still ran. Mostly stopped riding it because of the lockdown, so here we go. I took it out in better lighting so I could once again see what was the way I was gonna handle it, to see what I was dealing with. And of course, after bringing it out, I realized that there was much work to be done. I did initially plan to just clean it up and see what I can do with it, but after seeing the whole situation, I am planning of a complete rebuild. So this video is going to be just about tearing the whole thing down, so I can rebuild each and every part separately as I go along. I did make one major mistake of not planning the teardown. I should have, but since I was gonna take apart the whole thing, I didn't really care about taking a proper route towards the whole disassembly. I started off with figuring out which parts were easier to take off, the mudguard, the brakes, things like that. Once again, you will see that I'm quite randomly taking it apart. My main focus was on keeping the wiring harness in one piece, because I didn't really have a good idea of how the wiring goes in this, so I tried to keep it in one piece so that if I do rebuild it, I have a solid piece of wiring that I can look at to study. I did realize that the exhaust was in the way, and that was one of the main things I could very easily take off. So I started off with taking it apart, which came out very easily. Surprisingly, I thought it'd be more of a hassle. One thing that everyone should keep in mind is having proper tools when you begin a project like this. I made the mistake of having not studied the required tools properly, and I thought I could make do with one or two procurements, but I realized that that is not the case. And during this process, I did damage a couple of bolts and nuts, which I do regret now. The monoshock was the easiest to take out. and after looking at it, I do think that it's going to need a proper rebuild. I might not replace it. People have been doing it with the R6 monoshocks, but I think this will do for now. Next, I wanted to see if I could manage the chain and the front sprocket. I also wanted to see what the clutch cable was looking like. So I started to take that apart. At every step I realized that I should have started off with cleaning the whole thing first before starting the teardown, because it was one hell of a mess. Trying to take off the rear swing arm, I did damage the bolts, at least one or two of them. I do regret that a lot, but in the end I did manage to take it apart. The front end was a bit easier to disassemble, minus a couple of issues. The handlebar came off very easily, and the grips, plus the brake lever and the clutch lever. I started my project later in the day, so I couldn't really work at night. So I waited for the next day to get back to the front end. I would recommend everyone to use either small boxes or packs that you can put your screws and bolts in, so you can segregate everything and mark them so you don't forget what goes where. The easier way I found was to put the bolts back wherever they came out of, so that I didn't risk any mix-ups or losing them. Once again, the reason for doing it like this looks a lot messy, but I did want to keep all the wiring intact. The brakes came off very easily. Just the two bolts and they just slipped off. They don't seem to be in a very good condition, but once again, they're both gonna need a proper rebuild. I had to disconnect a couple of more wires to get the wiring harness away from the bike. And this really felt like a great accomplishment. Once again in one piece, so I can make a whole replica of the thing. I do not plan to use the old harness. One of the reasons behind that is the fact that this is an old police bike, and these guys used to have sirens and radios and lights and whatnot on these bikes, and it still has most of the old useless wiring on it, and I don't want my harness to have useless wires in it. Don't want it to be very complicated and stuffy. So I'm gonna rebuild a harness just with the wires needed. The rear brake was once again very easy to take off. The cylinders on it are very stuck. Once again, a proper rebuild is gonna do the job. I put the bike up on a jack. I thought it was gonna help when I took the front wheel off, but turns out it wasn't really a good idea. So this is where I snapped my tool and I had to go out and get a replacement. The guys I got it from were really nice. They did replace it without any charges. Yeah, so as I mentioned, the jack and the block were definitely not a good idea. I only got a light scratch on the frame, otherwise nothing else got damaged. Although taking out the front forks was quite easier that way, so I put it on the side again just for the ease. I put down a couple of pieces of cardboard in case there were any oil leaks. Although I'm sure there wasn't any major oil left in there, because over the 2 years it has been dripping oil constantly, and it had stopped dripping oil in the last 2 months or so. I got a lot of kerosene oil because it seems to be doing a good job with getting rid of old gunk and grease. And before opening the oil pan or the filter, I wanted to get rid of most of it because I did not want any of it getting into the engine. Once again, this is the reason I thought that I should have properly cleaned the whole thing before starting it. So I did take the oil pan off successfully, but after taking it off, I realized that there was some gunk and quite a number of metal shavings in there. I've asked around. Some people are saying that there might be corrosion. Some people are saying that it might be shavings from the crankshaft. I'm not really sure. Once again, when I do open up the engine head, I will find out what the real problem is. By the looks of it, the engine does look okay on the inside. Once again, we're gonna better understand the situation on the inside once we've opened it up. This video is just a teardown of the whole thing. For the engine, I will be doing a whole separate series of videos, in fact, once again depending on how much work the engine needs. So at this point, I wanted to take the engine out of the frame. And I broke it again because I realized that I was using a small one, so I went out and I got a proper tool set. After this, I don't think I've faced any problems opening anything. This has been a happy project moving forward. And then this happened.
Oh shit.
So the engine came out quite easily, didn't really take much effort. Although after taking it out, I'm realizing that putting it back in would be quite difficult. Not going to be a one-man show. Finally, I did find a power washer at a friend's place and I brought it back home to do exactly what I should have done to begin with. I gave everything a nice clean, the wheels, the shocks, the frame, the engine, everything. You will notice that the bike does not have a fuel tank or a seat because I took them off about a year ago, a year back, and I never really got to fix them, so I just put them in the storage. I'll show you later what condition they're in. I will be repainting the whole frame. Most of the bike I will be repainting. And looking at the valves, I realized that the head definitely had to be rebuilt because they do not look like they're in a functioning condition. I had to take the engine upstairs as well. I wasn't gonna work on the bike over here. So I tied it with a couple of ropes, made a couple of handles so I could ask a friend to help me carry it upstairs. I was gonna work on every part separately on my work table, and that's why I put up a sheet of foam with double tape on the table, and so it doesn't slide around. Then I got some plastic sheet and stapled it to the table properly, so because I didn't really want any oil or any other gunk getting onto my work table. Also, where I was gonna put the rest of the parts, I put down another plastic sheet, stuck it to the floor with duct tape so it doesn't slide around. I put the basket there for the smaller pieces for whenever I'm dismantling them. The first thing I'm gonna work on are the front forks, which of course is gonna be a separate video. So here we are with most of the parts. The brakes, again, I forgot to clean with the power washer. These are going to be a hassle when I clean them. The petcock for fuel, I am sure, as far as I remember, was leaking. Not much, but it used to leak. So that's going to need a proper rebuild, or if I find a good replacement. The wheels are okay, but I am going to have to change the bearings on them, and during the process I just might paint them. The old gauges got busted a couple of years back in a minor accident, so I went online and found me a nice replacement. Although this is also going to need a rebuild because it's really old and it hasn't been used in a long time. So this is the rest of the bike in storage. The seat and the fuel tank were also put aside, and now you can see what the fuel tank really is looking like. Now I don't know if I will be able to reuse this, so let's see. When it gets to it, I'll strip the paint off and see what's underneath. If I can get it fixed, well and good. I will try to do it myself. If not, I will try and find a replacement for the tank. And there is the whole thing. Thanks for watching the video. I will be posting videos for this series every week. I will be rebuilding the shocks first, and then I will be redoing the wheels. I hope you will enjoy this whole process. Thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe. Bye bye.